sun come out. Oh my God. The waves are so pretty.
Scoot over, I'm getting it.
Intelexx here. Welcome to Lifin with Lex, where we talk about a variety of topics surrounding life because life be lifin', right? Yes, definitely working out to keep the stress level down because life be lifin' and people will try you. Okay, but don't worry because there is one thing that we gotta do, and listen, check the message here. Okay, start each day with a grateful heart. Yeah.
Everybody get in the picture, get in the, or get in the video. Hey, we out here.
Definitely got to be around the family, but you know, self-care is a must, so you need that isolation because, baby. But most importantly, enjoying life because you only get one, right? And you know, a part of life is building relationships. Definitely got to have that. And definitely got to stay on point with the learning because knowledge is power. Okay. And not only that, applying it. Yes, that's right. Putting that knowledge to work and doing the work for the greater good. You heard me? Make sure to tune in and tap in to this episode to see what we're going to talk about today. You must be here for tea time. You came right on time. All right, so everyone loves a good story, right? And I think it's time that I share a story of my own, right? As you might know, for those that know who I am a very private person. People don't know that much about me unless I share it with them. And so this is not something anyone outside of my very close circle knows. But I feel like it's time that I share my story and maybe help somebody else, you know? Okay, so boom, right? I was in this relationship years and years ago, and I was with this guy. You know, guys are, very interesting. But we were together for a little while, and I found out that I was pregnant, right? You know, a lot of times, depending on the situation, us as women, when we find out we're expecting, we expect, to be happy and, to have that support and all of that. It's different for everybody, right? For some people, if they already have children, they know what to expect. It's like, all right, cool, another one. For those that don't know, it might be some anxiousness or whatever. So anyway, so when I let him know that I was expecting, I don't think he really reacted. It was more so like, okay, whatever. It wasn't like, there wasn't any excitement, but it wasn't any like ill will or bad feelings or like, oh man, get rid of it type thing. Like, it wasn't like that. It just was kind of neutral, which I felt like was interesting, mind you, when we were together, you ask all the questions, when was your last relationship? How many children do you have, if you have children? What do you do? Get into all the nitty gritty as far as like emotions, how you handle different things, all the goods, right? Right. So, initially, I was told a certain number of children is what he had. Later down the line, I found out it was way more than what he said. And so the relationship pretty much started off with lies. Okay. And my whole thing is I'm not here to bash anybody or to talk down to anybody or to make you look a certain type of way, to the public. I'm not doing that, because that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to tell my story, okay? And y'all gonna listen while we get this tea time in. Okay, so my situation was a little traumatic because it ended up being what's considered an ectopic pregnancy, which means that it is either in the tube or not fully in the uterus, and you need to have surgery in order to remove the fetus. And so that was my experience. In my case, the fetus was in between where the fallopian tube and the uterus meet. So it wasn't in either one. It was just like in limbo, but it was not alive. And so they had to get surgery I had to get surgery to get it removed, right? Surgery, at the time, I thought the surgery was fine. Surgery actually did a lot of craziness to my body to where I was told my tube wasn't working and it was stitched up so that the entryway to the uterus was closed. Come to find out, my tube was still working and it ended up causing another ectopic. Same guy, y'all. Okay? So then I had to get another surgery. And when I went back to the doctor that did my surgery, her assistant said, well, if the tube is not working, then how did the egg get in the tube? And that's what made me think like, okay, so instead of you closing off both sides of the tube, you stitched up one side, so now everything getting stuck. You didn't take the whole tube out because you felt like that would have been a form of, I guess what they consider in medical terms, abortion or whatever. And she didn't want to do that, so she was trying to save the tube. But initially, or it ended up doing more harm than good because there was nothing wrong with my tube. And I was told that the tube wasn't working, and that was a lie. And so fast forward, had to get another surgery because that time it was stuck in the tube because there was no way for it to get out. And so what they did, they cut the tube open, took the fetus out, stitched the tube back up, right? So still got the tube. The problem is not the tube. The problem is the stitches that's covering the entryway to the uterus. And so, and I'm pretty sure it was scar tissue and all that around the area. But during that time, the reason why the doctor did it the way that he did it, and this was a different hospital, was because I didn't remember which side I had surgery on the first time. And I didn't want them to remove a tube and it wasn't the same one. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to have two messed up tubes. So I was like, I don't know if it was the same one or not. And I'm pretty sure they had my medical history on file, so they could have just looked it up and said, you know what, is this one? So we just gonna take it out, you know? But nonetheless, they did what they felt was best based on what I told them. Okay, because I was like, I don't remember what side it was on, and this side is this side. All right, I don't remember. So don't take the tube out, you know. So then fast forward, I ended up actually conceiving, you know, the right way. And, you know, it was like kind of surreal. Didn't really know how to respond because the first 2 times was very traumatic. And so my whole mindset was like, all right, let me go to the doctor to make sure there's not another one, because I don't think I can deal with this one more time. You know what I mean? Once I went and they, you know, showed me like, okay, it's in the uterus, you know, there's a movement or whatever, then I said, okay, I can kind of relax a little, you know. And so, you know, I ended up, you know, telling him, you know, this not like the other ones, like it's actually going down or whatever. Like I said, he was kind of neutral. You know, it wasn't necessarily like I was looking for a specific response, especially because he already knows what the deal is, because he already has children of his own, you know. So for me, this would have been my first. And so my view of it was very different from his, because I would have been like, oh, this is my first child. For him, it would have been his number, whatever, you know. So, all right, fast forward. I had turned 6 months. You know, I was right up close to the 3rd trimester, and he was a boy. I had already found out. I had already said he was a boy before I found out. I was like, oh no, this is my boy, okay? All right, boy, you know, talking to him and everything like that. And, you know, there were some things that transpired on social media that alluded to this man that I'm with, that I'm carrying our child, saying, oh, I'm single and I'm this and I'm that, and just being real cryptic and real funny, real sketchy, all right? And there were a lot of different things that, you know, kind of showed up where I was just like, what's going on here? Like, you moving a little funny, you know, is you lying? Like, what's going on? Who you talking to kind of feel? And no woman wants to feel unsafe in a relationship. No woman wants to feel like she got to watch after you to make sure you're not doing nothing. I personally am not doing that. I don't have time for that. That's a whole job, and I didn't sign up for that. I'm not doing that. If I don't trust you, I'm not going to be with you, period. And if you do something to break my trust, you're going to have to work hella hard to bring it back, right? And it's never going to be the same once you bring it back. You know what I mean? So in my case, there were different situations to where it made me think like, what you got going on? So something that I did multiple times was I prayed. And there were certain things that were revealed to me in prayer that he never admitted to, he never confessed to, but I had the intel on it because, you know, God is my daddy. And so because he's my dad, he's gonna protect me. So even if you don't tell me the truth, I'm gonna get the truth. And I ain't gonna stop till I get it. And so once I seen all that, you know, on social media, mind you, it was like, I think New Year's Eve, right? I'm seeing all this and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I don't know what's happening here. I'm reaching out to him. He's not responding. I'm like, okay, now what's going on? Like, because what you're not about to do is try to play me, especially knowing that I'm carrying your child. Oh, no. We're not doing that. Because one thing that I go by is, you know, you could do some crazy things And not necessarily to me, but when it comes to a child, I prefer you do it to me than to them. Either one is unacceptable, but what you're not about to do is play this child, right? So that was my mindset, right? Let me sip my tea. All right, so I prayed and I was like, listen, if he is the one for me, then I, pray that you allow your will to be done. If not, I don't want any attachments to him whatsoever, right? So, and my relationship with God has been in existence for a very long time. So when I pray, I expect an answer. I expect to hear from God. I expect to receive whatever it is that I'm supposed to receive. And so after I prayed that prayer, 11 days later, I had a miscarriage. And I said, oh, okay. That let me know that he was not the one, And the crazy thing about it is 9 years prior to it actually happening, I dreamt about it. So that dream came back to mind once everything happened. But so that's just, that just goes to show like certain things are written and there's nothing you can do to change it. You know what I mean? Like, granted, no, we were not married. And yes, I was being bad. Okay? I shouldn't have been doing nothing to where my dudes would have got messed up and all that. So, partly that's my fault. But that was a consequence of me doing my own thing. But even in that, even in me not, doing the right thing, God still had my back. You know what I mean? And so, crazy part was, I told him that I lost a baby. We were in close proximity to each other. He didn't see me at all. He didn't come see me at the hospital. He didn't. And I said, that let me know right there. I'm cool. I'm done. I want nothing to do with you. Because for you to not be available when you were available shows me a lot. And then on top of all of that, once that whole situation was done, I found out there were other females involved that he was dealing with that were pregnant at the same time, that had children by him, that he was dealing with other women. He had all these other children, and I was just like, well, I dodged a bullet. And even though, that was my baby boy, and I will always miss him, it was a blessing in disguise, and I had to go through that for a reason. So I'm just sharing my story because there's so many of us who deal with stuff like that, and you're in situations unknowingly because people want to be acting crazy and people want to be acting funny and sneaky and doing all types of stuff. Do not lie to me. Do not cheat on me. Do not go behind my back and do all this extra stuff. If you want to be out there, do that by yourself. Because if I'm with you, my intention is to be with only you. I'm not out here running the streets, talking to this guy, that guy, Tom, Harry, I'm not doing all that. I'm being, faithful, and I'm focusing on what is right here. If you can't do that, then you don't need to be with me or anyone else. All right, so ladies, let me tell y'all, don't be afraid to stand your ground, and don't be afraid to set them boundaries and let those men know what you will and will not tolerate. And if they don't fall in line, deuces, okay? Because nobody got time for that. All right, so that is my story for a little tea time. But yes, it was very traumatic for me. And then on top of that, I was hurt because not only did I lose my boy, but then I found out you was out here acting crazy. Oh no, we not doing that. So ladies, guard your heart at all times. Keep God first, stay in prayer, and close them legs. All right, see you later. you so much for tuning into this episode. Okay, so keep it real. What did you think? And be honest, y'all, because I really want to know what y'all think. Honest feedback definitely matters, okay? Share your thoughts about it on the Q&A that's attached to the episode on Anchor or Spotify or Apple, or the amazing platforms. If you're on YouTube, make sure to drop a comment. If you want to share a little bit more, but you don't want to do it on those platforms, make sure to email us so that we can share your thoughts on the show. I want you to remember to love yourself.
Trying to level balance out, I meditate all the time. Learn my lesson, turn my blessings into one of a kind. I'm gonna stand up face to face, ain't anything in my way. Mama told me never let my feelings get in the way. I'm waking up like how the hell can I get better today? I gave myself that confirmation, boy, you already great.
Be true to yourself. And when life starts lifing, life back. But don't forget to life with Lex. Until next time.